Shora Beshemte. I'm Calum Traveler, and this is another episode of Blender for Korman for Beginners. So, as you can see here, I've roughened up this bit of previously level terrain, and I've textured it with a lava flow texture. Today, besides eventually working more on that floor, in the second floor in the pod, today we're going to work on this lava pit. Well, the remains of this lava pit anyway. It's since been partially buried. It'll since be partially buried by rocks. We're just going to start off by doing a cube. And I'm going to name this cube Shelf Fallen Complete. It's going to be a plasma object, pod 12 terrain. And while I'm not going to assign it any material yet. Oops. Let's stretch it out sideways a bit first, and then I'll extrude it a bit, and then I'm gonna extrude it. Yeah. Okay. Now we can come in kind of. Nope. Nope. I just want to stretch it out a bit. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, we're just mainly doing what we were doing before with the original, original bit of terrain. That we're just gonna wildly kind of shape it, and we're gonna try to make it kind of loosely fit the existing bit of shaping here. Now, there's a reason that I've waited until this point to actually do this bit, because originally, once upon a time, there's going to be a rope bridge connected to all the different shelves, like I explained before. That idea has since gone a bit by the wayside, but I still need to kind of model roughly what that was going to look like. And yeah, so for this initial first section of this, we're just gonna make a bit of a shelf model here. I'm gonna select these 4 planes, and I'm gonna extrude it down a bit. I'm gonna shrink it in a bit. Yeah, there we go. And then extrude this out, bring it up, shrink it down a bit. Yeah, there we go. That should mostly do the trick. Ooh, nope, that's not the line I wanted. I want to have my line tool rather than my yeah, there we go. That should do the trick for our rough shelf idea. So now I'm just gonna, oopsie, nope. Always make sure you have what you, and I completely just undid everything I just did. Wow, okay. Shape this out this way. Yeah, there we go. Now we've got this looking like a shelf again. There we go. Select all these faces. Extrude region downwards. Shrink it in a bit. Now originally there were probably going to be support structures in here. We'll worry about the support structures later. make sure I still have my the right object. Yeah, there we go. And now I'm gonna duplicate this. Yep, there we go. Just duplicate it, bring it upwards a bit. I'm gonna shrink it down a bit. Yep. I'm gonna rotate it slightly. Yep, that should do the trick. So then if we look, actually no, hold on. Object edit mode. Drag this inward. Drag that inward a bit. And then, yeah, okay. So basically the idea of these shelves originally was, these would be climbable. There would be, there would be ladders that would go up between them. There'd be support structures and all of that. Now, obviously, I changed my mind on wanting to do that. Would be fun to do, but at the same time, it really makes more sense to have these collapsed over time. Especially because I've already in the backstory where they did collapse, so I can't really go back on that now. Yeah, so there were 3 shelves originally, and so I'm just gonna kind of go up a bit. Let me make sure I've got my 3 shelves here, and they kind of all used to connect together. Okay. So now we know roughly where our shelves used to be. Okay. Which is, it's good to know, because we're going to be remodeling bits of the wall terrain here. Object edit mode. Yeah. So yeah, we're just going to grab some planes here. And I'm going to kind of stretch them a bit. And it'll kind of make the appearance that there used to be something, here, generally. Which is, the truth. There did used to be a shelf here. And we need to make sure that our geometry for this area, reflects that there used to be, shelves along the wall here. And if some intrepid soul had at some point designed to figure out a way to get across from on one of these shelves, they probably could have figured out a way. In fact, I'm gonna stretch this out a bit. Yeah. And this is just gonna visually cue to people who are exploring this area that there used to be, they at the terrain here used to jut out a bit more seriously than it does now. Because, collapse, etc. You'll see I already kind of pre-aligned some of these where the terrain looked like it was already kind of jutting out a bit. That way, it doesn't stick out too badly. Something weird going on there. Oh, right, because of that. Yep, okay. I'm just gonna keep, there we go. That should, keep the visual flow of it a bit more interesting. Yep, there we go. Okay, so if we go back down to here. Let's see what's on this row. Stretch it forwards, stretch it sideways, stretch it forwards a bit. Yeah. And I'm just going to repeat the same thing over here. Stretch it out a bit. And over here, yep, boom, just stretch it out a bit. Grab this and stretch it out just a smidge. And there we go. So if I were to go into the age now and view it as it is now, these shelves would not be active, but we would see the remnants of them on the cliff now. You've got this sort of tiered look to them. Now we just roughly sort of know where, these shelves were. But I'm not done yet. Object, edit mode. I'm going to take this shelf out. I'm going to extrude it a bit more. I'm going to do that along here a bit more, just because I want this particular shelf to be kind of a bit more obvious than some of the others. There is a chance I might still put a Lincoln point up here at some point, or some kind of exit tunnel up here somewhere. In fact, you know what? I think that is exactly what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take this section of wall here, and I'm going to extrude it back. In fact, I'm going to follow along this entire section of wall here. Extrude it back. Make sure I did that totally right. Aha! Yep, we got a slight bit of... Yep. I'm just going to select face, select face. Yep. And it put a little chunk of hole in our wall, but that's alright. Edge face. Make edge face. Edge face. And make edge face. There we go. And I will come back along and finish off yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'm going to come back along later and kind of finish off that fissure in the wall a bit later. Expand it, deepen it a bit. Make sure it goes somewhere. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just leave it kind of like that. Yeah, that might work. So we'll see. I think I have an idea. Edit mode. I think what I'm going to end up doing is... just follow this crack along the wall here. Extrude the region backwards. Extrude the region backwards, and then I'm just going to repeat, delete the face, delete the face. Yep, I put a gap in there, but delete the face, delete the face, delete the face. Ooh, that was one face too many. Grab that face and drag it back, drag it out. Okay, drag it down. Yeah, okay. Now we'll come back in here and we'll fill in our missing gaps, because that is important to have these sealed in. Edge face. Edge face. sketch face. There we go. Come back up here. You might wonder why I'm going to all this trouble to kind of ruin this geometry that I already put in, you know? Well, again, I'm not really trying to ruin it, per se. I'm trying to... I'm trying to make it a little more, lived in. So... yeah, I could... now I've got this big old gash in the wall here. And that goes pretty much all the way down to our new lava floor. Well, that is exactly what I'm going to be doing, is I'm going to select all of these little planes in here, in this new fissure that we've created, and I'm going to put our lava texture in it. This is part of the backstory of the age, that, you know, there's now a fissure in the wall, and the rock shelf collapsed because of it. And you'll notice it came right along the seam line, and it just kind of in this corner, and that's where everything just kind of stabilized and broke apart. And yeah, anyway, that's going to be a little tedious to record, so I will see you after I finish that. And we're back. And as you can see, we have a very big fissure in the wall. Very, kind of blurry lava texture up close, but we're not going to be getting too up close to this normally. In fact, getting up here required me to use a little bit of fly mode magic to get up on to this ledge a bit. Though, we'll see if some enterprising explorers can, manage it later. Like, for example, if they manage to get up on one of these, cliff walls here. Whoops. Yep, I need to make more of those rocks solid, possibly. But... yeah, so the original idea was there would be these rock shelves, and you could climb up them with ladders and get up close to things and have a more personal, intimate view of the high-up views where the pod used to be. Of course, most of this is just for visual effect at this point. But... it's good to have this kind of visual, doesn't it? Certainly helps, oof, oof, oof. Yeah. See, that bouncing is exactly the reason why we will not have a Lincoln point up that high. Because, oh gosh, that is a lot of bouncing. Anyway, yeah, roughed up terrain here. Now that we've got our shelves roughly the remnants of the shelf roughly modeled into the wall here, it's time to actually make our actual shelves visible. And visibly ruined at that. So I've temporarily textured these and given them some collision. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm thinking that this first one is gonna mostly be intact. It's gonna be separated from the wall a bit. Yep, there we go. Checked edit mode, and let's go find our midpoints here. I'm gonna drag it out roughly to shape. I'm gonna grab these points and roughly drag them in. Okay. So this shelf should be somewhat broken in half from the angle it's landed in. And I'm thinking I'm gonna go, just gonna go in, select these faces, and twist it like that. Yeah. So now what about those supports I mentioned? Well, the supports have obviously collapsed. So yeah, I'm just gonna grab a bunch of rocks here and throw them under there. Duplicate. Duplicate. Wrong direction. Yep, there we go. Squeeze that in there. Just bring that under a bit more. Yep, there we go. I'm gonna size that up a bit. Control A, S for scale to make sure we didn't break any scaling. Yeah, as you can see, this is just going to be the shelf that has just collapsed down, and it's basically kind of, you know, collapsed. It's collapsed. It's basically in ruins. And yeah, I'm going to go duplicate this again. Let's twist it around, RY, yep, there we go. And thus, a rock that looks the same, looks different from a couple different angles, is now kind of differentiated a bit. Spin that back. Yep, there we go. So now someone's going to come up here and they're going to look at this cliff and they're going to see, oh, hey, that's kind of broken up by a lot. And you might be wondering, am I going to really put rocks under all of it? No. No, I am not. Come on, I'm grabbing the green arrow, not the red one. Let me grab the red arrow. There we go. And hey, I found a use for that old book podium stand now. How about that? Yeah, fancy that. Alright, so my idea for this basically is, yeah, I'm gonna take some of this lava terrain. Yeah, so for this gap in here, I'm gonna be pouring in a custom lava model for the for the thing. And before I do that, I'm gonna bring this down. Come on. Bring it up. Why? Let's do it like that. Edit mode. I'm gonna select these planes. Oops, nope, gotta make sure I'm grabbing all the planes along the line, because remember, this is all one chunk of rock. It's gotta act like it, so I can't just grab a plane. If I twist that a bit, there we go. Then I come in here and I select these lines, and I will just yoink them out a bit. Yep, there we go. And then I'm just going to repeat that process. I'm just going to grab some chunks of rock, twist them roughly to shape, squeeze them in here. Do in this direction. Yeah, there we go. If I scale them up a bit. There we go. And now we're getting this kind of vibe of, you know, the rock's shelf has collapsed completely and utterly, and it is, you know, it is not in a state that it was going to be climbable. Now we come back to this shelf. I'm gonna nope. Bring that forward. I'm gonna shrink that. Nope. Shrink that by X a bit. And then I'm gonna duplicate it again. Hey, now we got 2 slices of toast. And what am I gonna do with the 2 slices of toast? Well, obviously I'm gonna collapse down another shelf with them. And I'm gonna mirror X on that. Yeah, that'll do the trick. And yep. And I'm gonna mirror what? Yep. Okay, there we go. Now we've got. Ah, that'll do. That'll do nicely. That'll do very nicely. Well, now that shelf will look like it's actually pretty much collapsed in half, actually broken in half. Unlike some of our other shelves so far, which have been modeled roughly like it, but not permanently made to look like they are actually broken. I'm actually going to move this one down and forwards a bit, because clearly this topmost shelf, you know, it had a bit more of a rougher journey than the rest of it. Bring that up, squeeze that down a bit. Yeah, there we go. And let's bring that over here. Yeah. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. And again, I'm just going to repeat that process of moving boulders. Well, I'd say that is a collapsed shelf if ever I've seen one. Come on. Up the cliff here. Yeah. I'll say that's collapsed. That is definitely collapsed. This would not be fun to fall on. Oof. Yeah. Broken terrain and... yeah, okay, let's get this an aerial view from over here. Yeah, let's see how this looks. Oh, yeah. Yep. That looks like something collapsed in on itself, that's for sure. Now, again, I only really filled in the debris on one side. And the reason for that is we have lava to put in on it over top of this. Well, hardened lava, but it's still lava. And that's where things are going to get a little fun and tricky. But, you know, that is a busted rock shelf, if ever I've seen one. So we're going to start off simple. And, well, you'll notice I added a second crack in the wall back there, because one fissure just didn't seem enough to take down the whole wall like that. So, I added a second one. But anyway. Alt, home, let's refocus our camera. What we're going to do is we're going to create a lava flow. And there are a couple ways we can do this. First one I'm going to start with is create an icosphere. I'm going to set this to our lava texture, which is, let's see, where did that texture go? It's lava hard. And I'm going to set this to pod 12 terrain, set it active, and I'm going to name this lava flow 1. I'm going to extrude it outwards. And now, Object, Edit Mode, Tools, I'm going to hit Randomize Vertex. And I'm going to stretch it out X ways. Yeah. Stretch it out a bit Y ways. Let's pull this out a bit. Ooh, that might be a bit too wide. Yeah, Let's, Object, Edit Mode. Let's grab these faces here. And I'm just gonna shrink them down. And extrude them out a bit. Yeah, here we go. Now it looks like that's kind of flowing through from there. And I'm going to follow that up by dragging this and shortening it a bit. Now, the trick with lava flows is they are kind of, they are definitely, they are the rock equivalent of flowing water, basically. We've got a bit there. I'm going to smooth the vertex out just to make our job a bit easier. And I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to select lines, and I'm just going to drag them out. Come on. There we go. And just by strapping them and stretching them a bit, we can kind of get a rough shape here that's going to look like the lava has just flown on out of the gaps in the rock. And that's kind of the look we want to go for, is we want this to look like, that it's the lava has just been pouring through from where it has been. And yeah. Now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna hit smooth the vertex again, just to give it a bit more of an organic feel to it. Now that we've done that, I'm gonna project from view bounds, and that's gonna give us a kind of flowing look to it. Not perfect, mind you, but we don't want it to be perfect just yet. It looks kind of like lava has flown out from under that, doesn't it? Let's check this out in game. Also, yes, I did move the Lincoln point into the pod. Now again, I didn't put any collision on it, but that's looking a little respectable, like a plume of lava kind of pouring out through the gap in there. And that's basically kind of the trick we're going to do, is we're going to take a shape, take various shapes even, and just kind of extrude them out through the gaps in the rock on this side, and a bit back here on this side as well. The goal really is just to, fill in the gap shapes and make it obvious that there was lava pouring out of this until very, very recently. What about when it hits the water? Well, I have some ideas for that. Now, another way to do the trick that I was just doing with the lava things is to create a cube of a flow 4 instead of doing the icosphere. I do a cube and then I subdivide it a bunch of times. Let's reverse that just a bit. Yeah, that should be a bit better. Okay, so then I'm just gonna go in. I'm going to randomize the vertexes a bit. Yeah, smooth that a bit. Randomize, smooth. Randomize, there we go. I'm going to pull this up and out. That's probably a bit too big for what I want, but, well, that's what rescaling things is for. Okay, so, object, edit mode. I'm just going to grab some faces under here. I'm going to grab it down, pull it out, grab it down, pull it out, and yes, make sure I have my lava texture assigned. Just, get this to where it's feeling a bit more naturally, glued in through here. I'm gonna select these faces here. I'm gonna do the same thing, just extrude them out. And I am essentially just creating some lava glue models that are just, I'm gonna go in here, extrude the region. And yeah, that's just basically the trick to this. It's just, make a thing, kind of fill in where it, where we want it to look like there's lava that's been flowing. Come in here and just sort of stretch that out a bit. Yep. And then we'll select these faces. I'm just gonna extrude them out. And the goal in this is just to, make it look and feel like the lava has been pooling around in this giant crack in here. And yes, I did not really need to have all of these, I do not really need to have all this collision pane underneath it, which is a bit of a, a bit of an unnecessary, it's a necessity, and yet at the same time, it is completely unnecessary. Because we're not going to be focusing on filling in every single chunk in here. We're just making the surface look pretty, basically. Yep, just making the surface of this look pretty. And it's fairly easy to do that. Just by extruding the regions, lifting it up. Suddenly all of this is just, No, I'm going to extrude this region. Then I'm going to back it up just a bit. Grab this line, squeeze it out, bring it down, squeeze it out. Yep. And I'm going to select this plane that is big here, and I'm going to subdivide it again, because I don't want to mess with this side of it, but I do need to raise it up in the middle here. Go. There we go. That's looking. Yeah, that's looking very lava flowy. Yeah, this is mainly just the trick to this really is just, you know, grabbing what we have and extruding it outwards. Though, again, I may have done this a bit too exaggerated here. We can but that's the glory of modeling in digital. We can just adjust this however we want to. And then we just come back down here. And I'm just going to extrude it downwards to cover our bases down here. And again, like I was saying, we don't necessarily have to, you know, make this perfectly filled in. In fact, this whole big volume that I'm doing down here, once we're done with, once we're done with a area, we can just delete a face. Delete a face, delete a face. Yep, and that'll reduce our polygon count on the model. Just making sure that I'm not deleting anything that's facing outwards. Yep, there we go. That's looking pretty good. And I'm going to shrink this in a bit. Extrude it, and I'm going to shrink it in. Raise it up. And I'm going to shrink it a bit more. Here we go. Now, yeah, okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Let's center ourselves over this. Project from view bounds. There we go. And then I'm going to hit smooth shading on that. Yeah, okay, that's looking pretty good. Now, I am going to add collision to it. I probably don't need to, but I'm going to add collision to it. I'm going to make sure all of our other lava flows have collision. Triangle mesh. Collision, triangle mesh, terrain, collision, terrain, triangle mesh. Okay. Restore recording, export. Okay, let's launch the age and see how this looks now. Ooh. It's a little stretchy in places, but yeah, I'd say that looks fairly convincing of a lava flow that has hardened over this rock cliff. Kind of spewed out the edges and it's gone all, yeah, I think that's looking pretty believable. Let's see how it looks from up here. Not bad, not bad. Sanskrit eye level. Pretty believable, I think. Oh. How's our collision looking? Climbable? Collision is climbable here. Again, we gotta fill in our gap over here. But... okay. This is looking pretty good. No, I'm not climbing up on that one. So yeah, we're just going to repeat that process. I'm going to carry on with that later. Next thing we're going to focus on is the next floor. It's going to be a fairly similar process to what we did here, except we're going to be leaving a gap in it for the ladder that will eventually be climbing up there to the second floor one. Ah. This is looking lovely, isn't it? Yes, I will get back to how to deal with the lava flow hitting the water later, once we do some other things. But yeah, I'm liking how this is looking. I'm maybe not quite fond of the specific hue of the texture, but we can adjust that later with our favorite trick in GIMP. But for now, okay, I think this is good progress. So, the floor. For starters, I created a duplicate of the floor we already had. I moved it upwards along the V-axis, and now I've extended a new round edge of floor. I deleted the old outside edge, and then I created a new one. So, there's generally what we're going to be trying to do. Not make it wireframe. Yeah. We kind of generally want one of our lines to be about here. Yeah, one of our plate lines to be about here. For the to match up where this is. So if I were to go to my point and I select this point, you'll see it's basically right next to where this shaft is. So, yeah. I'm just going to go and select all of my edges along here again, because I just was a dummy and unselected them. And I'm going to do the same trick again. I'm going to, from the last episode, I'm going to extrude the region. Left click to undo that, but not completely undo it. I still have the extruded region. And then I'm just going to scale it outwards, outside of the pod. Yep, that is a bit too big for what we want. I'm going to shrink it down. Make sure it's not clipping outside anywhere. Perfect. Object mode. I'm going to lower this a bit. Oh. Now, I'm going to go back into edit mode. I'm going to select this plane, this plane, this plane, this plane, and I'm just gonna delete the faces. Do I need to do anything over here? I'm actually gonna lower the floor down a bit more. Yeah. Now, I'm not gonna repeat this spirally pattern. It's not. I'm gonna Control A, or rather hit A to select all faces. I'm going to go view it straight on. I'm going to hit reset. Nope, I want to... well, do I want to repeat the spirally pattern? No, not really. I'm going to project from view bounds. Yep. UV image editor. A, S. And I'm going to scale it down. So it's more of a traditional floor pattern here. There we go. That works. fairly well. So now we have this gap by this window looking out over there. And this is where our ladder is going to come into play, basically. So, how exactly are we going to make this into more of a floor? Well, I mean, obviously, we could just leave it as is. Just select, select, select. But I'm going to select all of these faces. And then I'm going to extrude region downward. Yep. Make sure I have that exactly on the Z-axis. Undo that. Okay, so I'm going to extrude region, disconnect, then extrude it down. Now, if I were to go and make an edge face, hey, now that mirrors our pattern from above. And now I will go and select our edges along the side here. And now we suddenly have a slightly thicker floor. I'm going to reset all of those. Now I have one floor. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to, I'm going to bring that up a bit more so it doesn't look like it's just, I'm going to make it a bit more of an obvious. It's going to be a thicker floor, but it's not going to be like, the thickest floorboard ever. We still have other things, such as supports, to put in. But, yeah. We now have a floor. And yeah, those round edges around the edges, we only really need those in certain places. Like, we don't need it clipping outside the pod to be a complete floor. And in fact, we will go in and at some point we will, remove our extraneous edges, but for the moment we don't need to do that. For the moment we are good. Though, I'm realizing, I may need to remove these bits over here. Well, it's not important at the moment. It is super duper not important. So, how are we going to do the ladder and where are we going to put it? Well, we'll do ladders in another day. I'm running low on time for this episode, but I want to make sure that we have this working right. So, save, and I will export, and we'll jump into the pod, and we will see how our floor here looks. We'll do ladders in the next episode, I swear. We will. I'm not going to do it off screen. Yeah, the lighting in here is really doing something funky. I need to adjust the lighting. Something fierce. But, hey, here we are. Second floor. Oh, look. We have a sunbeam. We have a sunbeam through the window. How cool is that? Yeah, okay, we now have a second floor. And I definitely need to make those rocks collisionable now. We've got a second floor. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put in some kind of internal lighting in here to make sure that everything works right internally. Because that floor is really dark. Meanwhile, up here, it's not quite so dark. But yeah, anyway, the next thing that I'm going to have to do is I'm going to put in some support joists, visually support joists underneath it, like crisscrossing, the floor underneath. And those are just going to be, squares that I'm stretching out into rectangles and wedging into place. And, there's no even any need to put collision on those. But yeah, for the moment, I'm happy with this. I'm thinking the ladder will either be attached over here, or it'll be, You know, I'm realizing I may not have thought this through. I am realizing I may not have thought this through. Well, that's a problem for future me to sort out. Thank you for watching. Shora Bashemti, and I will see you in the next video.